Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today, what we're going to be doing is reading Bella, pages 70 to 79. Remember, the expectation is that you're following along with your eyes as I read out loud. All right, so we're going to just jump in and get started. Bella. Bella trudged along listlessly behind Signor Luciano. She'd lost track of how much time had passed since Pietro disappeared. Weeks? Months? Years? It was hard to keep track of anything when her life was just one constant, exhausting blur of work. Making shirtwaists all day in the factory, making flowers at the Luciano's table at night and on Sundays. She was so used to being yelled at that her ears seemed to ring constantly with angry voices. Signora Luciano, surely you can make more flowers than that. If you don't, I'll throw you out in the streets. Don't think I wouldn't do that. Signor Carlotti, faster. Faster, faster. Don't you know there are hundreds of girls arriving at Ellis Island right this minute who'd love taking your job? And they'd do it cheaper too, I'd wager. Signor Luciano. Hurry up. You'll make me late for my job. I'll be fired. Oops. Signor Luciano was yelling at her right this minute. Bella forced herself to step a little faster before he followed up his words with a slap or a punch. She'd loved walking to and from work with Pietro. It had been the best part of her days. But now Signor Luciano and the boarder Nico took turns escorting her. Nico was actually worse to walk with because he was always leering at her and trying to touch her. At least Signor Luciano only hit her. Don't think about any of that, Bella told herself. Think about the money. This was the only part of Bella's life that gave her any joy anymore. The moment on Saturday afternoon when she carried a handful of coins and bills home from work. Sometimes it added up to $4. Sometimes it was $3. In bad weeks, when there wasn't much work, or Signora Carlotti blamed her for a lot of ruined shirtwaists, it was only $1 or $2. But she placed all that she could into Signor Luciano's rough hands. For sending to my family, back home, in Callia. You'll send it for me? Oh, yes, Signor Luciano always said. Of course, I'll go to the Banco di Napoli right now. It was the only moment all week when she actually liked Signor Luciano. Suddenly his mustache didn't seem so scraggly. His eyes didn't seem so beady. She forgot all the slaps and punches, pinches and pokes he'd given her throughout the week. Sometimes he even patted her head in a grandfatherly way, murmuring, such a good girl, sending money home to her mama. Bella wished she could take the money to the bank herself, that she could watch the bank officials writing out the direction for where the money should go. She even wished she could write out her own directions. For my mama, Angelina, Rossetti, and Giovanni, and Riccardo, and Giulia, and Dominic, in Italy, in the village of Callia. It's such a small place, you can't miss them. They're in the last house in the last piazza. I am sending money and love, and I miss you. But she couldn't do that. Even if she knew how to write, they'd never let a girl in a bank. She'd have to trust Signor Luciano. He jerked on her arm and slapped her. She'd gotten lost in her thoughts and was lagging again. You make me late, so help me, Al. Signor Luciano broke off. They were nearly to the triangle factory, but the crowd around them had closed in tight. No one was moving now. Out of the way, let us through, Signor Luciano snarled, shoving forward. When that didn't work, he began pounding on the coat-covered backs in front of him. One of the men turned around, his own fist bared. Quit it. We can't get anywhere either. It's the factory. What about the factory? Signor Luciano growled. It's closed down. Bella gasped. Signor Luciano let out a string of swear words. It can't be, Bella protested. It was just there yesterday. Nobody said anything about closing down. She thought about yesterday's misery, as opposed to all the miserable yesterdays that came before it. There had been one odd event. In the middle of the afternoon, a man had stalked into the room and ordered them to stop their work. He screamed for a few minutes in a language Bella couldn't understand, then ordered them to start sewing again. Once upon a time, Bella would have longed for someone else who spoke her language, someone she could lean over and joke with. What do you bet they dock or pay for all the time? What do you bet they dock or pay for all the time that took? Think they'll cut out 50 cents or $1? But Bella was long past jokes. She just felt a stab of fear. What if they did dock her pay? She was frantically cramming another shirtwaist through her sewing machine when Signor Carlotti leaned down close. "Did you understand that? What Mr. Blanc said?" he asked, speaking slowly and loudly, as if, for once, he really wanted to make sure Bella understood. "If you want to join a union, join the Triangle Employees Benevolent Association. You join any other union, you're gone." He made a motion with his forefinger across his neck, like someone slashing a throat. Bella shivered and nodded, though she still didn't know what a union was. She certainly didn't know what an Employees Benevolent Association was. She understood that what she was supposed to do, what she was always supposed to do, was to keep the shirtwaist moving through her machine. What else did she need to know? But now, if the factory were closed, Signor Luciano was still swearing. "Now I'll have to walk you back. I'll really be late to my job. And how are you going to pay the rent? The Signor and I can't afford to run a charity, you know." The flowers," Bella said. "If the factory's closed, I can make flowers all day long. All day, all night." She could barely choke out the words. It was like volunteering for a death sentence. And if she worked at nothing but the flowers, how would there ever be any more money to send home to Mama? "She is not an honest woman, Signora Luciano," Pietro had said that very first day. "She would cheat you. Every week, there would be a reason she wouldn't pay." Ever since Pietro vanished, Bella had tried not to think of those words, tried not to calculate how many thousands and thousands of flowers she'd already made without receiving a cent, always being told, "If you work a little faster, maybe, just maybe, you'll make enough to cover your rent." Bella pressed forward, wanting to see for herself if the factory really was shut down. She managed to slip between two men's elbows and come up for air beneath the ostrich feather of some woman's hat. Now she could see the factory doors at least. There were indeed chains linked around the door handles, below a sign she couldn't read. The crowd around her was growing more and more unruly, people talking in louder and louder voices. Bella could figure out only a few of the words, mostly the ones that were repeated over and over again. Union, strike, union, strike. She saw Yetta and Rahel, those girls who had walked her home the day Pietro vanished. What was Rahel saying? Now. It's time now. Signor Luciano jerked Bella back by the hair. "Come along," he said. "If I lose my job because I'm late from walking you home, mi scusi," a voice said behind them. Bella whirled around. It was Signor Carlotti. "I couldn't help overhearing," he said. "If you think it proper, I could escort Signorina Rossetti back to her abode." Bella had never heard Signor Carlotti call her a signorina. She never even heard him use words like escort and abode. "Who are you?" Signor Luciano growled. Signor Carlotti bowed slightly, tilting the brim of his top hat. "I am Signorina Rossetti's employer," he said. "She's one of my best workers." He'd never seen anything like that before either. "Fine," Signor Luciano spat out. He shoved Bella towards Signor Carlotti. With narrow eyes, he muttered, "She'd better be there when I get home." He turned his glare on Bella. "And you better finish a lot of flowers." Signor Carlotti ignored Signor Luciano. He tipped his hat again, this time directly to Bella. He offered her his arm, but Bella only regarded it suspiciously. What was he doing, being nice to her? What did he want? After a moment, Signor Carlotti dropped his arm, but he put his hand on her back, gently guiding her through the crowd. Bella pulled away, and would have run if she hadn't been so tightly hemmed in by the crowd. Signor Carlotti leaned in close, whispering in her ear. "This must be very frightening for you, the factory closing down, and you so newly arrived from Italy. Poor little one." If Bella had been frightened before, she was terrified now. She dived between a group of girls in lacy shirtwaists and skirts, all of them laughing as though the factory closing were a picnic. Signor Carlotti followed her, scattering the girls like geese. You are sending money home for your family, no? He asked. This slowed Bella down. Yes, she whispered. Your mother? He asked. Brothers and sisters? My mama, Bella said. 3 brothers, 1 sister. Ah, Signor Carlotti said. And they have no one but you to depend on? Bella was glad he put it delicately. They didn't ask, so, is your father dead or did he just run off? But she wanted to defend her mother. Mama tries, she wanted to say. She remembered Mama marching off to the marketplace, trying to be hired as a farm laborer in Papa's place after Papa died. But there wasn't even enough work for the men. No landowner wanted to hire a woman still suckling a baby. She remembered her brother, Giovanni, all of 7 years old, saying, You can't go off to America, Bella. You're a girl. I'll go. I'm the man of the family. What will your family do if you have no job? Signor Carlotti asked. Starve. Die. Bella could not bring herself to say these words. Tears stung out of her eyes, and she angrily brushed them away. She walked more briskly again, as if she could run away from Signor Carlotti's questions. In no time at all, they were back in Bella's neighborhood, where the voices on the street all carried the rhythm of Italian, even if she couldn't understand each and every word. She saw the ragged urchins sitting on the curb, holding their hands out for pennies, begging, per favor, the peddlers calling out, peaches, pears, walnuts, buy here. Suddenly it seemed they were all saying the same thing. Please don't let us starve. Please, we don't want to die. Please. A whole neighborhood, hundreds and hundreds of people, all desperate to live. Signor Carlotti touched Bella's cheek, and Bella let him. You are a good worker, he said. Don't worry. The Triangle Company will always have a place for workers like you. There are just some troublemakers we need to get rid of. Rabble-rousers. Come back to the factory tomorrow. We will be open again then. You still have a job. Bella turned to Signor Carlotti, stared up at him through eyelashes heavy with tears. Really? She said. In truth? You are not just saying this? Not just making up a story? In truth, Signor Carlotti said. He chuckled a little and reached into his pocket. He pulled out a $1 bill, crisp and clean and new, not bedraggled and limp like most of the money that came Bella's way. He placed the money in Bella's hand. Proof, he said. Let's say I'm paying you for today's work, and you don't even have to work. Bella let him press her fingers around the dollar to hold it tight, but she squinted at him suspiciously. She was confused. I don't make $1 a day, she said. Signor Carlotti laughed again. Ah, but maybe you will soon, he said. Let's say we raise your pay to $5 a week. Deal? Deal. Bella almost dropped the money. She was that amazed. Deal, she said quickly, before he could change his mind. They were in front of the Luciano's apartment now. Signor Carlotti tipped his hat to her one final time. See you tomorrow, he said. Bella could have sworn he winked as well. Signor Carlotti faded back into the crowd, but Bella didn't climb the stairs yet. When the peddler called out peaches, pears, walnuts behind her, it didn't sound like a desperate cry for help anymore. It just reminded her that there was food she could buy. $5 a week, she thought. I could send money home and save up to bring my family here, or save up to buy land there. These were such daring thoughts that Bella laughed out loud. The door of the tenement building creaked open, sending out puffs of foul, fetid air. The small form of Rocco Luciano appeared in the doorway. You're laughing, he said, in the same stunned way he might have announced, it's snowing in July, or some swell gave me $50 for shining his shoes today. The factory closed, Bella said, grinning ridiculously. But it's all right. They'll be open tomorrow. And Signor Carlotti paid me anyhow, a whole $1. I still have a job, and I'm going to make more money now. And I'm just happy. Rocco kept staring at her. Bella could see the darkness behind him. The dark hallway, the dark stairway that led to Luciano's dark apartment, where Bella was supposed to spend the whole day hunched over a table making fake flowers. Her grin faded. Your father sent me back here to work, she said. Signor Carlotti walked me home. I'm supposed to be making flowers right now. She put her hand on the railing because suddenly it seemed that she needed that to hold herself up. She pulled herself up the first step. Rocco put his hand over hers. Don't, he said. His dark eyes blazed. Don't go in there. What else can I do? Bella asked, shrugging helplessly. What would I tell your parents? They'll know if I don't make the flowers. Come with me, Rocco said. I'll show you the city. You can tell Mama and Papa. We'll tell them I needed your help with the papers, or I had so many shoes to shine I gave you some of my business. It might be true. It's a lucky day. You can help me, and then it won't be a total lie. Bella considered. The soft autumn breeze tugged at her hair. The sunshine seemed to tease at her back. She reached behind Rocco to pull the tenement door firmly shut. I will, she said. It was exactly what the old Bella would have done.